right, so welcome to the Indigenous Entrepreneurs Podcast. Today I have Daris Padilla with me, and he is an artist and owner of Lightning and Fire Jewelry. So if you just want to introduce yourself, and then we'll get into the discussion.
Yeah, so my name is Daris Padilla. I'm from Santa Clara Pueblo. I own and run Lightning and Fire Jewelry. So I've been doing this full time since 2019. Before this, I was a Wildland Fire Fighter for 11 years. So yeah, it's been a really interesting ride being an entrepreneur for these past 5 years, 4 years.
So what got you started with your business?
So I did Wildland Fire for 11 years. I loved my job. I loved what I did. I got to be out in the mountains all the time, traveling all over the country. But after we had my son, my second year of fire, and so I was gone a lot during the fire season. So pretty much from, I'd say, April to about the end of September, mid-September, I was usually gone on fire assignments. I'd come back home for 2 to 3 days. Sometimes we'd have more time home, but I couldn't plan anything. I missed a lot of birthdays. I missed a lot of family events. And after doing that for 11 years, I kind of hit a point where I realized this just isn't what I want to do anymore. As much as I absolutely loved it, family's more important, and I'll never get those years back if I continue doing it, is what I thought.
Yeah.
So it's a hard choice, but I'm very happy that I made that decision, and yeah.
So how did you start with jewelry? Was it something you were always doing, or did you just start it in 2019?
Yeah, so my mom started teaching me how to make jewelry when I was about 8 years old. And I did that for most of my childhood. And then like in high school, I just wanted to play and be with friends and stuff. So I didn't really do it much, but yeah, so I had always I beaded and I stamped, but I didn't get back into making jewelry until I was 20, almost 21. That's when I found out we were gonna have my son. So I needed to make extra money. And so I started making jewelry. And my mom's the one that taught me. She started showing me how to solder and how to do metalwork. And that's basically where I got my start at. I would do it. I would do the fire season, and then I would get laid off for the winter, and I would just make jewelry. And so that was like an extra income that was really helpful for us. And then I just continued doing that for a long time. Eventually, I was able to start selling at the plaza in Santa Fe at the Native Artisans program. And so that was really cool. It was nice having that kind of like shift from, working really hard and like physically demanding job to like having that like kind of downtime and just being able to just kind of relax. I didn't make a lot of money doing it, but the jewelry, but I enjoyed it. I just enjoyed the piece of it. And then in 2018 is kind of when I hit that wall, when I was just like, this is it. I have to leave this. And I remember talking to one of my buddies that I was working with. This was at this point, I wasn't doing so much of the ground pounding anymore. I was working at the tanker base at the Kirtland Air Force Base.
Okay.
And I remember we had a lot of downtime. So I would take my supplies there and I would just work on stuff. And the people that worked with me, they started watching me. A lot of them were older guys, and they just thought it was interesting. I had tools.
Yeah.
So they wanted to know what my tools were. So I would like work on these things, and they would just watch me and like ask me questions. They're like, well, why don't you bring some of your stuff in. Like, I want to buy something, because a lot of them they were on assignment out of state. Like, I want to take something back home with me, and I'd like to buy something from you. So I'd bring my jewelry in, and like, I sold a lot of my pieces there. And one of the guys that I was working with, I remember I was telling him, like, dude, I need to get out of this job. Like, I can't do this anymore. He's like, but I was like, I don't know what I'm gonna do. So what are you talking about, man? Like,
you're already doing
you're
it.
making all your art and you're selling it to people here. Like,
Yeah.
your stuff is amazing, you know? And at that point, I didn't realize how awesome my work was. And I think that's leading into, I think, one of the questions you had sent me that thing of like, one of my barriers was that confidence in myself, like realizing just how amazing my artwork really was. You know, at that point, I just knew I was just putting things together with metal and like trying to make money with it, you know? But it took hearing that from somebody, like that encouragement of like, no, you probably could make a living off of this.
Yeah.
And it's weird how the universe works, because around that time I was actually listening to a podcast, and they were talking about this book called Real Artists Don't Starve. And so a lot of what they talk about in that book is how people have made transitions out of like normal 9 to 5, even government jobs, which really applied to me, how to make that transition of getting out of that into being an entrepreneur, you know? And so that was kind of like that first like kick that I needed to once I finished that book, I was like, no, you know, I think I can do this. Like,
that's awesome.
It's kind of scary, but at least there's kind of like this little bit of like, other people have done that, and I think I can do it too, you know?
So during that point in time, would you say that that book was kind of what pushed you to take the leap, or were there people who encouraged you, or how did you make that decision? Like, this is what I'm gonna pursue.
I think for me, what I've noticed is like the universe creator, whatever you want to call it, kind of puts these things in front of you. Like, it'll give you these little things, like these little gifts, you know? So like that book was definitely that was one. Hearing it from people that I was working with. And then the other thing was just my son. That was the huge one. You know, like, if I would have never had my son, I don't think I would have ever left fire. I'd probably still be doing it right now, but I don't know if I'd be happy.
Yeah.
And he was always my biggest, just
motivator.
Like, yeah, like I just knew like I have to be with him. Like I can't do it. I can't not be in his life, you know? Like I just knew that that's what I needed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So sometimes I think people think, well, if I start a business, like, you know, then I'm gonna have to spend all my time doing that. Do you think pursuing entrepreneurship has kind of actually provided more of a balance for you, or how has it benefited your life, and then your life with your son?
It's definitely benefited my life with my son, because I have more time to spend with him. I feel like our relationship has just grown tremendously, you know, and I'm just so grateful that I was born with this artistic ability, and that my mom taught me and embraced it, you know. And she gave and still gives me a lot of encouragement to continue to keep pushing, because she's been doing art, making jewelry since I was born. That's like pretty much 35 now. It's been 35 years, and she raised me and my sister with art, you know. And I think for at least my personal life, I'm learning to have a balance. I'm learning to find that balance. And I think the important thing is, yes, business is important. It's important to like keep making your jewelry, getting out there, selling, promoting yourself, having that web presence. Taxes, like, man, there's like, I like to say that I'm doing the job of 5 people, and it's exhausting. And I hit burnout pretty good at the beginning of this year. And what I learned for myself is you have to have that, you have to know when your body's telling you it's time to slow down, and know that for me, I love spending time in the woods, and I need to go out to the woods sometimes and just not have any of this stuff. Like when you're an entrepreneur, you're always on, you're always working.
Yeah.
Every single day I'm working. Like it's rare that I have a day where I'm not doing something work related, even if it's like
posting to social media.
Exactly. Always doing something, and I think it's really important to make sure you give yourself that downtime to do something that you love, because it can't all be about work.
Yeah. So what are some ways you've kind of been able to find that balance? You mentioned like burnout, and then I think it's so true, especially with entrepreneurs just starting off. You're wearing like 5-12 different hats, like you're the accountant, the marketer, all of that.
Yeah.
What are some ways you've been able to find that balance, or maybe some resources that have kind of helped you in the areas maybe where you're not as strong or you struggle, to put that hat on?
Well, I'm going to reference them like I think everybody else has, is NMCC. They've been a huge help. I met them before the pandemic. I met Jake and Liz. They were having a class at the Pueblo Cultural Center, and I just happened to find out about it on Instagram. So I was like, this is what I need, because I don't know what I'm doing. I just knew I was making jewelry and trying to make a living, but man, they really empowered me to like realize that I have a lot of potential, and and I think they're the first people that ever called me an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
I never thought of myself as an entrepreneur or a business owner. I was just thought of myself as a guy who makes jewelry, and like that was huge. The times when I needed to know about like how to promote my business, they were there. When I needed to learn about like the financial side of it, they were there for me. I know Jake Foreman does Grow with Google classes, and that was a big help. I took some of his, learned a lot of good tips from that, as far as like how to manage my funds. Yeah, they've just been a huge help with. They've been sponsoring me and other artists at the rail yards here in Albuquerque, and yeah, they've been awesome. They've been really awesome people to me. And the cool thing is like they've never asked anything from me. They've just been like just there helping me. So I try to, like, as much as I can, pay that forward as well. Like, so just letting other people know about them, or if I can offer my help to them whenever I can.
Yeah.
That type of thing. But the American Indian Chamber of Commerce too. They were pretty big in like helping me to make connections and network. Yeah, it's just I think we got a pretty awesome like community of natives out here who like want to help each other.
Yeah.
AIBE they've been really helpful to me too. I've taken some of their where you ask, what is it called? Like, I think it's like a mentorship or something like that, where you can like log on and they like get you in contact with like
mentoring at office hour type thing.
Yeah, so I talked to a tax guy who that was really helpful.
That's good to know they have those office hours.
Yeah, so they send out emails like every month, and then they have this long list of just people who are.
I think it's actually every week, every Friday.
Oh yeah,
if you get on their listserv.
Yeah, so that, I mean, if anybody who's, get in touch with AIB, because you can get in contact with some people who know that type of thing. And I talked to a dude who knew about social media and stuff like that, and so yeah, I mean, I think it's really networking is huge, and just being open to asking questions of people, and getting that feedback wherever you can, not being embarrassed to. None of us were born knowing how to be entrepreneurs, so you learn as you go. I don't know if that would answer your question. But
it did. Just kind of to follow up that question, as you were starting off, and like maybe when you were first learning about NMCC, or you didn't know about any of the resources available, what were some of those first immediate needs you had as a newly established entrepreneur?
And my first immediate needs, I think one of the biggest things I needed help with was knowing my worth. I didn't know how to price my stuff, and I feel like that made it really hard for me because I would undersell my stuff a lot. And I don't remember exactly who told me from NMCC.
Was it Hillary?
Somebody told me they're like, you should be selling your stuff for way more than you are. And honestly, it was a little like, I don't know how it made me feel, like kind of weird, like somebody telling me that. I was like, I don't want to say like offended, but like I was like, yeah, you know, maybe you are right, you know, like had to put that ego aside and realize, you know what, I am underselling myself, you know, and learning, and she has a really cool equation that she showed me on how to price my stuff.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, so I mean, I don't know if anybody wants, if they can get in contact with me or just talk to Hillary directly, but that helped me a lot to really understand how to price things. And I think too, I sold in Santa Fe at the Portel, at the Native Artisans program, but I think just finding other venues to vend at too, that was hard. But
where are you vending now?
So I do Santa Fe still, and then the rail yards, and as many other markets as I can get into, you know, and I think the networking has really helped. So like I did Pathways a couple weeks ago. The Poe, their markets are pretty cool.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, in Milwaukee.
They're doing a lot of stuff now too,
They're really,
trying to like develop the entrepreneurial ecosystem out there.
Totally. Yeah, so they're awesome people too. Like I really like them. And yeah, just whatever. Like I said, the Chamber of Commerce, Martis really put me in connection with some good people who got me in, that I found out about markets, and it just kind of grows from there. You know, it's like almost like this like branching system. You have to start you have to start right here, and then you meet somebody, and they're like, oh, this is like, you know, and just keep going. And that's how I found out about a lot of these markets, and then I see a lot of the same people all the time too. Yeah. So it's really cool. I'm enjoying it, you know.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
So you mentioned this a little bit at the beginning, but like I like to talk about what were your needs, and then also kind of what are some challenges that you faced along your journey of entrepreneurship, and how have you overcome them, or how are you trying to overcome those challenges currently?
So needs and challenges?
Yeah, now talk if you have like challenges that are barriers that you faced.
I think the needs, I guess it's kind of the same needs I have now.
Yeah.
I think web presence, like that one's a hard one for me. I'm still trying my best to like have that presence on social media and like getting more traffic to my website. Yeah. You know,
you're on there though. I see your posts.
Yeah, I'm getting better at it. I think it's that time management, you know, making sure you're giving yourself time to work on it. And one of some advice that was given to me was like, give yourself 1 day a week. Like that's my internet day. That's my computer day, you know? So I've been trying to do that. So that's been helping me do that better. But yeah, just trying to get more traffic to my website, because it's hard when you're vending all the time. You know, like you're constantly going, and you're like putting mileage on your vehicle, and like it costs money to get it out there, and then you're talking to people is a big expend of your energy. Yeah, like you're not just selling your jewelry, you're selling yourself, you know. And like I don't want to me personally, I don't want to buy from somebody who's not like enthusiastic and like engaged in their work and excited about it, you know. So you have to like
find that balance.
Yes, exactly.
I imagine it's hard to kind of finding that balance between working on the business, but then doing your art, like because that's your business, is your art. So
Mhm.
kind of finding that balance between creating
Yeah.
your jewelry and then marketing it and selling it and vending and all of that.
I mean, you're hitting a pretty important thing on the head right now. Yeah, I think that's part of why I burned out so hard this year, is because I found that I was trying to do so many things on top of, like being a father, trying to wear all the different hats of the business, and then like I found I was at a point where I was like, when do I actually make my jewelry?
Yeah.
Like I had like a day. I found myself at one point having like 1 or 2 days a week, and I was like, by the time I'm like get prepped and get everything I need to get going, like I'm not creating what I want to create, or like I'm just making the things like just the bare minimum stuff, and I'm not like I'm not getting to be that creative person that I was when I got into this. Like my passion is creating art. Absolutely love making art, but you kind of find yourself at a point of where you're like, I don't feel motivated. I'm like everything else that's all around me that I'm working on to try to make this business work, like, and then like to try to save energy to like actually like get your creative juices going and be like, oh, I get excited about making this piece. I'm already tired by that point, and I'm just like, it's hard.
Yeah.
It's really, really hard. But that's a good point you brought up, though. Like I know I'm not the only one who goes through that, and I think that's it's just like you just have to just learn how to have what works best for you.
You're still navigating that.
Yeah.
I know one thing people have said, and it's hard, especially once you're when you're starting up, is you don't have the resources to like outsource certain things, like you can hire someone to help with marketing or help with the accounting. That way you can focus on your craft, but you have to work up to the point to where you can afford to do that. So you're probably still kind of navigating and finding that balance.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's definitely something where I definitely want to head in that direction of like not being the 5 people doing the job, and like at least like outsource like 1 or 2 of those jobs to other people, and I think like the taxes one would be an awesome one, because man, that one can be like, you'll like be falling asleep, and then that thought like hits you like, am I doing well?
Taxes.
Yeah, and you're like, oh man, I don't want to think about that anymore. Or if I could have somebody doing like my social media stuff, like web presence, that'd be so awesome. Like those 2 things would probably those would be huge for me. But I know I'll get to that point. I'm gonna get there, and I think that's really just you need to have those goals too, of like knowing like I'm gonna get to that point and not feel like you're just like stuck. Because if you stay in that mentality of like feeling overwhelmed and like I'm never gonna get out of here, and like not like then of course you're gonna stay there. Like you have to like really believe in yourself and like know that like this is just part of the journey. Like I'm on that part where I'm like I'm learning. I'm learning a lot right now, and I am starting to like implement things. It's almost like a river for me. It's like this whole journey has been a river for me. Like just learning how to flow with it and not trying to fight that current and like feel like I have control over everything, or like have these unrealistic expectations. But I feel like when you kind of like just have faith and like in what you're doing and really believe in yourself, like, and you lead with you lead in a good way, lead with your heart, lead with love. You're good to yourself first. Love yourself, be kind to yourself, give yourself what you need, and then like project that into the world, into the universe. If you lead like that, like good things are going to come for you. And that's what I truly believe. Once I started living with that type of mentality, like helping other people, not hoarding these resources, that's when opportunities started showing themselves. And it's really, like I said earlier, like the universe will put those opportunities right there and be like, all right, here now.
Yeah.
Or what are you going to do with it? Are you going to take it, or are you going to say, I don't think I can do that, and ignore it and then stay stuck where you're at? You know, just take every opportunity that comes your way as best as you can. You can't take every single opportunity, but like, you never know what could happen.
Yeah.
You know, it's, I mean, I did that pitch competition with AIBE a couple weeks ago, almost a month ago, but like going into that, I had a lot of self-doubt. I was like, I don't think I'm gonna win. Like, I just make jewelry. Like, I'm sure there's other businesses out there that are doing great things for their communities and stuff like that. You know, like, well, I don't think they picked me. That was my first thought when I saw that on Instagram.
Yeah.
I was like, that sounds cool, but nah. And then I got an email from Rachel Livingston with AIB. She's like, hey, we're doing this. And I was like,
you should apply.
Okay. And then I saw somebody else post something. And I was like, the universe is telling me something, and I don't think I should ignore this one, you know? And so I, like, even though I didn't really know how to pitch, I didn't know what that really meant.
Yeah.
I was like, all right, I'll put in for it. I'll try it. I can talk about my business for 3 minutes. You know, I do that every time I vend. So I did that. I put in for it. And then going back to NMCC, like, I talked to Hillary Frost, and I know she knows a lot about that type of stuff. And I asked if she could help me, like, put together a pitch, and she kind of showed me how they do theirs. And from there, I just kind of ran with it. I put together the best thing that I could. I still have that self-doubt of like, I don't know if this really portrays me. Like, 3 minutes is hard to fit everything that you want to say into that little bit of time, but I did it. And I just went up there and I was just confident, you know, like, my mentality was like, I don't know if I'm going to win this thing or not, but at least people are going to hear about me. They're going to hear my story. They're going to know about my business, and then hopefully that'll bring me more networking opportunities and more business. And man, after that happened, and then like I found out I won, and like, you know, got the big check and everything, you know, just so many opportunities started coming my way. You know, like right after that happened, a couple minutes after, it's a regional development corporation. One of their representatives came up to me, and she's like, hey, we have a pitch thing that's coming up. Deadline is like in 4 days, but I think you should really apply for it.
Yeah.
And that feeling came back to me of like, oh, that's not enough time. I can't do that.
You just did your pitch.
Exactly. I just did it. And she's like, but it's a 10-minute pitch. And I was like, that hit me even more. I was like, oh, I can't do that, you know? But then I was like, no, I can do it. And I did it. I put in, and I got a grant from them too.
Awesome. Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. And I just, like, a lot of, like, it was kind of funny. I was telling my son after everything was over with that day, we went to go have a victory meal, to go get some pho. But yeah, I told him, I was like, man, I felt like the prom queen afterwards. Everybody was like all like shaking my hand and like wanted to like tell me, like, giving me business cards and stuff like that. And all it took was me just saying like, yes, I'm gonna do it. I'm just gonna try it.
Yeah.
And like, if I would have just ignored it,
it wouldn't have led to all the other
all these, just so many things opened up for me, you know. And it really comes down to just believing in yourself. You know, you got to be your own hype man. I can't remember which one of the speakers was saying that, but he's like, you know, like, every day you got to be your own hype man. You got to wake yourself up and say, you know, there's a lot of hard days. Like, this is not an easy job. Being an entrepreneur is way more stressful and harder than it was when I was a wildland firefighter.
Yeah.
And but when you get those victories like that, man,
it's like, okay, I'm on the right path.
Yeah, and you earned it. Like, you did it. Like, you know that you did that for yourself. You know, I mean, there was help. I had support, but like, man, when it comes down to it, like, I knocked that out. I did it, you know. And it's such a cool feeling. And like, man, that really like gave me the
Maybe
just
the
the momentum.
confidence.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, like
That little like encouragement that you
exactly.
needed, especially when you're working so hard.
Yeah,
And then it's easy to get discouraged, I feel like, with entrepreneurship.
it
And
is.
so it's nice to have those moments where you're like, okay, I'm doing good. Like
Yeah,
almost just helping with that self-confidence, but then getting that feedback from others
yeah.
is like, oh, they like my stuff. They like my story.
Yeah.
Like it helps motivate.
And I think that's probably what the hardest thing of one of the hardest things about being an entrepreneur is like you don't have people like when I was doing Wildland Fire, like I had a crew, I had leaders above me, like I could I could talk to people, like I knew if I made a bad decision or like just in the decision making process, like I could hear it from the people that I was leading. They could tell, hey, well, what if we try it this way? Oh, that's a great idea.
Yeah.
Or like the leadership above me, like, hey, you should try it this way, or that, like, yes, thank you. I needed somebody. But when you're an entrepreneur, you don't really have that. You're navigating this alone most of the time. And I think that's one of the things that was the hardest for me too, was like, did I make the right decision? Am I making the right decisions? Am I making the wrong decisions? And I finally, not until recently, realized that I had to just tell myself, like, you know what? Whether they're the right or wrong decisions, you just keep moving. You just keep going, And I had a really cool mentor. He's a painter. His name is John Paul. I think his handle on Instagram is Vanilla Art. But I met him in Santa Fe. And I remember one of the things he told me was like, there's no right or wrong decisions. There's just decisions. And like regardless of what it was, like you're gonna end up where you're supposed to be at anyways.
Yeah.
Just one path is probably gonna take you longer to get
Yeah. You'll still get there.
exactly. So just make that decision. It's either gonna be a lesson or a blessing. A blessing in that, oh, I made the right decision. Boom, it's yes. Or a lesson in, oh man,
Now I know better.
now I know not to do that.
Yeah.
But in that lesson, especially some of the hardest lessons we have to learn in our lives, some of those most painful lessons we'll ever have to go through, bring about like the biggest blessings that we'll ever have in our lives.
Yeah.
So having that mentality of like weathering that storm of like, yeah, I'm going through this really hard time right now. And maybe it's because of the decision I made, but like, I'm going to get through this. I see the light at the end over there.
Yeah.
And when I get through it, I'm going to be even more amazing, knowledgeable. I'm going to know some awesome things because I went through that storm,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just that like growth mentality.
Yeah.
And then also that hope too.
Yeah, exactly.
That, things will work out for the best.
Exactly. And it's weird, like having to switch from that mentality, because I remember I was taking it was a leadership class when I was still doing fire. And one of the things they said was like, a plan built on hope is doomed to fail. But that applied when you're doing fire, because if you're making these plans based on, I hope the fire is going to do what I think it's going to do, or I want it to do, but yet you're still putting people's lives in jeopardizing places. Yeah, you may end up hurting somebody, or you may end up causing a lot of damage because of that decision you made based on hope.
Yeah.
But it was hard for me coming out of that mentality into like this entrepreneurship mentality of like, you can't let go of that hope, like, I don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. I don't know what's going to happen in the future, but I never let go of that hope of like, I'm going where I need to go and things are happening the way they're supposed to. And it's like, I can get angry, I can get sad, I can get anxious, I can get depressed, I can feel guilt, I can feel shame about all these things, but like the past already happened. I don't know what's going to happen in the future, but at least for right here, like, I got to maintain that hope. And like, I don't want to get too spiritual.
You can if you
want
like,
to. I think for me, having that belief in my native culture, and I think part of it, that's really what's helped me to keep carrying on, is like having that faith, going out and praying every morning, and like putting my offering my cornmeal. Just understanding that the things that are happening in life, I'll say it one more time, they're lessons, either lessons or blessings, and it's all happening for a reason.
Yeah.
And that's how I choose to believe, and like letting go of this idea of I have control over everything, because I don't. The only thing I have control over is my thoughts and my actions. Aside from that, everything else around me is gonna happen. It's all moving parts.
The way it's gonna happen.
It's all gonna happen the way it's gonna happen. And like the best I can do, and like that's what this bracelet represents. It's just flowing with that river.
Show it.
Yeah. It's just flowing with that river. Like I'm not gonna fight the current anymore.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna have expectations of people, places, or things. I'm just gonna, when things come up, I'm gonna adapt, and I'm gonna keep going.
Keep flowing like the river.
Exactly.
I love that.
Yeah.
And not fighting the current, because when you're fighting the current, that's when you're trying to control everything. But when you just go with the flow and trust the process, then things work out the way they're supposed to. But you have to like go with the flow. You can't fight it, and then you can't just like
not do anything.
Yeah.
It's I think life is all about that balance of like finding where do I stand between like, am I not doing anything, or am I doing too much? And I think that's kind of where this comes back to, just for me personally, like I said, like those opportunities are put there. And it's like the universe, creators testing you, like, hey, now that's what you asked for.
What
are you gonna do about it?
Yeah, are you gonna it's your choice.
Yep.
To either take what's been given to you or just let it pass you by.
Yeah, exactly. So I think it's like having that open mind of just like seeing those opportunities when they're there, like you'll feel it, or at least I do. I feel it right here. Or like with that AIBE pitch, like it kept reoccurring. Things kept showing me. It's like, dude, don't ignore this. I was like, all right, okay, I'm not going to. I'll do it. And it was probably one of the best like business decisions I've made. It opened a lot of doors for me.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's clear that the creator or God or the universe is working in your life through your art, and you're obviously on your path. But,
thank you.
Yeah. As far as like, you won the AIBE pitch competition, and then you participated and won the RDC one as well.
Yeah.
So what are some of your goals, now that you have some of that funding, and I know you want to continue to grow and pursue your business. So what are kind of some of the goals that you have in mind?
Yeah, that was what was, I think, probably the coolest thing about doing these pitches was it made me really think about where am I going and what do I want to do long term, which I think I needed that. I needed somebody to ask me those questions, really sit down and like think about that. And I know as far as like the short term where I am right now, I definitely want to grow my artistic skills. So it was really cool. I actually was able to get into the jewelry making class at the Poe Center in Milwaukee.
Cool.
So that actually starts today.
Oh, awesome.
So I'm looking forward to that, and which was, that was really cool that I won the RDC one, because that they really ask you like what tool, like what do you need, like what tools do you need, and like I was to get, for me it was literal, I need tools because my hands are starting to hurt from using these really the original tools I bought when I first started this. So like that's gonna implementing into like growing my artistic skills, so I can actually start creating like even more things, which I felt like I was kind of in a rut before, just making the same things, similar things, but now like I was getting bored. And so this is like opening that door. I'm like, cool, now I get to like try new things. I'm gonna learn new things at this class, and I'll learn about these tools and like how to use them properly, and like awesome, um getting into more of these like prestigious type of markets, so one of the things I referenced when I did that pitch competition was I want to try to get into like the Smithsonian market, and because I did that pitch, I met a lady from Ienta.
Oh yeah.
She told me, she's like, hey, the applications are due in a couple weeks. So because I met her, I was able to get my application in time, which, fingers crossed,
Yeah.
we'll see if we get in or not. But at least, hey, that was cool. Then the Herd Museum, though, that one's coming up soon. But yeah, just getting into more of these types of markets where I get to travel. Like that's one thing I loved about doing fire was I got to travel all over the place and I was getting paid to do it. And I want to continue that.
Yeah.
Like I feel like I don't know how many days I got here on this earth, but I want to see as many places as I can, and if I can get paid doing it, then hey, awesome. That's what I want to do. And just, meeting people from all over the place, which I think is, I love talking to people and hearing their stories, connecting on this like these spiritual types of things, because a lot of my art is tied to my spirituality.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah. So like I've met so many awesome people because of my art, just telling the stories of like, hey, this is what this piece meant. Like, and it's crazy how the creator brings us together, because usually like I'll meet people, like especially when they decide that they want to buy something, they just connect with this piece. And usually it's because I told them the story of like, this is what I was going through when I created this. This was the inspiration behind it. They're like, I'm going through that right now, or I need that type of healing in my life. I need that symbol. I need that strength,
Yeah.
And so it's like, I'm kind of helping. I'm not healing. I'm not saying I'm healing people, but like I'm giving them this little bit of like, here you go. This will help you on your path.
It's that like human connection and that like helping people not feel alone. Like through your art, it kind of shows like you're not alone.
Exactly.
I've been through this before, or here's this is gonna help encourage you, or that's awesome. That's beautiful.
And the cool thing is too, it goes both ways. I've met some amazing people. And I was going through things, and just words of encouragement. They're like, I've been there, and like some of my best friends that I've met were through my artwork, because we connected on that level, that vulnerability. And I think that's part of what it is with my art, is like that vulnerability. Like you have like that's how you make awesome, amazing connections with people, like, and it's so cool just like how many people like have helped me just by, even if they didn't buy anything from me, it's not all about the money for me. It's creating that human connection. And that's kind of where, like, leading into where I want to continue taking this, around the country and eventually around the world. I'd like to be able to like go all over the world and talk to people about like, hey, this is like healing and growth, because we all need it. We're all going through it, especially right now. And like being able to have somebody to talk to about it, connect on that level, like it's creating this community, like regardless of like what race, gender, whatever you identify as, what your pronouns are, like doesn't matter. We're all humans. And like that's what's important. And I feel like that's the gift creator gave me, was being able to create that community through my art. And it's not until maybe recently, maybe the past year, that it's really like it hit me, it clicked, like this is it. I get it. Like I understand why I'm here. And I feel like that's why creator keeps putting these opportunities here for me, because that's the direction that I'm heading, at least that's what I feel, that's what I feel inside myself,
I believe it.
But yeah, just I want to continue getting my name out there, traveling. And one of the things I really thought about too when I did the RDC pitch was what does it look like when I'm in my older age, and how am I going to benefit my community? And I think what I think is like, I've been learning so much about how to be an artist, grow my business, network, and just seeing like all the like in the art world of how non-natives and like foreigners are really taking advantage of our culture and our artwork, and they're profiting off of it.
Yeah.
And it's really
upsetting.
Yeah, it's really messed up that the native artists are getting paid the least amount of money of everybody else, and we're the ones creating it. Like, like, and I think long term, I want to empower more native artists, entrepreneurs, but artists specifically, to know that, like, hey, you're better than what they made you believe.
Yeah.
Like, you have so much more potential than what you think right now.
Yeah.
And like sharing my story and what I've learned and just connections. That's where I want to go with this. Like, I want to see, like, when I'm an old man, I want to see like my son's generation or even younger, like, they're the ones that are like own all the galleries. They're the ones that are self-sufficient artists, like, I mean, there's this whole thing about like, oh, art is so important, especially in New Mexico, and like we have to embrace it and stuff like that. But man, the native artists just get treated so unfairly, and that's why, like, for me, I made that personal decision. Like, I'll never sell my stuff to a gallery. I'll never undercut myself.
Good.
Because I know my worth.
Yeah.
And a lot of times, like, especially vending in Santa Fe, like, these tourists can be really disrespectful. And I feel like I have to mention this on here, because I feel like everybody needs to hear it. If you've done it at some point in your life, don't ask native artists to come down on their prices. Like, that is disrespectful, and it's ignorant. Like, don't do that. Like, we're working so hard. We're trying to support our families, our kids, and for you to have the audacity to come and ask me if I'll come down $50 on a piece, it's like, you don't understand the amount of skill, first of all, that went into making this. Like, my hands are hurting because I made this. I'm inhaling these fumes. Sacrifices I've made. Like, there's just so many things. And then, like, I don't go to your job and ask you to will you take $10 less an hour today for doing your job? Like, when people ask me that, I'm like, would you ask your dentist to come down on his prices? Would you ask your mechanic to come down on their prices? Then why are you asking me? And I mean, I try not to like let it get to me, and I've gotten a lot better about it, but I feel like I have to make people uncomfortable. I have to let them know. I want you to feel uncomfortable when you ask me that, because if you've done it to me, that tells me you've done it to somebody else. You've probably done it to one of my relatives down the way over there. And if I don't say something, you're going to do it to one of my relatives over there. And that culture needs to change, like, just because we're natives, especially at the Portal, like, just because we're selling on the ground and we're natives, like, doesn't mean that we're like poor Indians that like need your help. No. You know what I mean? Like, that mentality needs to change. And I feel like, I'd like to see changes like that happening,
Definitely. I feel like you're a trailblazer for those changes to start happening, because starting your own business, knowing how to sell online, how to like promote yourself, it really cuts out that middleman, which is the gallery, the trading post. And so knowing those skills and then being able to teach them and pass them down to future generations, I think will help hopefully change the landscape right now, because it's true. And a lot of people don't understand exactly how Native artists are not getting paid what they should be, especially if they're selling to trading posts or to galleries. And I think just what you just said kind of shows, I think, maybe some of the growth and empowerment you've been able to accomplish since like speaking to Hillary and realizing like, oh, I am underselling like myself. I should be pricing my stuff higher. So I think that's really awesome to just see that, your worth. You know
Exactly.
what your
That's
piece of
yeah,
your worth.
that's the main thing you just hit right there, knowing your worth. Loving yourself, knowing just how amazing you really are, you know. And I think there's like this culture of like, you shouldn't have pride in yourself. You know, you shouldn't, I don't, you know, like, but it's important. You have to love yourself. Like if you don't love yourself and you don't empower yourself, like nobody will. And people are gonna take advantage of you, they're gonna take from you. And they're gonna step on you and they're gonna treat you like crap, you know? Like it's time, like you need to be the one to stand up for yourself and say, like, no, like I deserve better, you know, and like take back that power. All the places you've been letting that power be taken away from you, you know, really taking that, like, that notice of it, bringing it back, growing that internal fire, setting boundaries, and speaking from authenticity, you know?
Truth, speaking from truth.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like we all have that inner child. And I think a lot of us, especially with generational trauma, like our inner child didn't get the love and support they needed, you know? And it's sad. It's sad of us, like, especially within the Native community, there's so much generational trauma that like our own personal traumas that we've gone through, you know, and like, and I, you know, I'm a big proponent on like therapy, you know, and like doing that healing for yourself. You know, like it wasn't until I started going to therapy and really like working through my own traumas and like really healing from a lot of the things that I had been pushing down and numbing and like ignoring my whole life. Once I started doing that work for myself and like really understanding what it meant to like love myself, you know, because I don't really feel like I loved myself much when I was younger. Like probably not until I started going to therapy in 2020 that I understand what that meant, you know. Honestly, for a long time, like I didn't have a very high, I didn't think very highly of myself. And I mean, it took me a long time to get to this point to where I am now. To understand just like how important that is. Like if I don't love myself, I can't love anybody else or anything else. True. You know, like and like love is the most important thing in the world. Like love will conquer everything. You know, like you can't heal if you don't have love. You can't grow if you don't have love. It all starts with love for yourself. That's on my tagline for my business is created with love and inspired by nature.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah, like love for me and like just that love that I'm putting out to the world, you know? And I feel like when you lead with love, that's when, I mean, you shouldn't do things just to expect things to come back to you. But like when you lead with love, like that energy you put out there, it comes back triple. You know, but if you lead with like anger, belittling people, you know, like that type of negative energy, of course that's gonna come back to you too, triple. That's why so many people stay stuck in these cycles that they're in, you know. And I think if we could all just learn to just take care of that, our inner child, you know. And a lot of that comes like from play, you know. Like don't be so serious. Like life is, I mean, I heard this quote from, I can't remember who it was, but he was saying like our lifespan in like comparison to the amount of time in the universe from like the beginning of creation is comparable to like a dolphin jumping out of the water. Like that's our lifespan. So you might as well do a backflip. You know what I mean?
Like have fun with it.
Yeah. So it's like I choose to live my life now looking at like, and I'm really into quotes and like motivational speakers and stuff like that. But like I choose to live my life of like, this is like a game. All of this is a game. I was given this character that I am, Daris Padilla, the former Wildland Fire Fighter and current artist. This is my character, and I can make the most of this game that I can, you know, and like I might as well do it. I might as well take all the opportunities that I can and like have fun with it because man, like I don't know how long I'm going to be here, you know, and if you know, God willing, I make it to be an old man, like chilling with grandkids, be like, man, yeah, I did this and I did this and I did that and I did this, you know, like my life was awesome. I did so many cool things, you know. I don't want to be like having resentments when I'm an old man. I'm like, I could have,
Yeah.
why didn't I? You know?
Yeah, that comes back to like taking those opportunities that the universe
Yeah.
presents to you. Would you say that your entrepreneurial journey has been somewhat healing in a way for you?
It's been the most healing thing in my life.
Wow.
Like I needed this.
Mhm.
I really, really needed this because when I was doing fire, yeah, I was happy. Well, I don't know if I'd say I was happy. I mean, I liked what I was doing, but I don't feel like I was really happy.
Yeah.
Um, but this journey has really, and like everything that I pretty much referenced in this whole talk of like healing, learning to love myself, you know, and really, I feel like I was living a pretty inauthentic life when I was younger and in fire. Like I was wearing these masks of what I thought I was supposed to be, especially like as a male, you know, and like really kind of like that toxic masculinity type of thing. Like I've always like had jobs where I was around a lot of guys, you know, and so I always felt like I was kind of wearing these masks. Like I didn't really feel like I was being myself, you know, when it was, but like I had to learn to take those masks off and really like go inward, and like this art has really helped me to do that. It all intertwines. Everything that I've been doing and everything's happened in my life, it all intertwines with each other. It's all part of this big rope that's being braided into like
Something
wherever this rope is going. I don't
Yeah.
really know, you know, but it's like this huge rope. But like, yeah, I needed art to really express what I needed to express into my metal, into what I'm doing, you know. And because of art, I've met a lot of people who have helped me on my personal healing journey. And a lot of what I've healed from in therapy has gone into my art, and it's inspired other people, and they inspire me with their words and encouragement. And it's just like it's all this
Intertwined.
crazy intertwined
Yeah.
thing that's happening, and it's really cool to like I'm really grateful to have this in my life, you know, and like that the faith that I have in my native culture too, you know, like when I was doing fire, yeah, I was around natives every now and then, but it was mostly like people that weren't, you know, but
Yeah.
like now I'm around natives all the time, and it's really cool, like to just
Kind of
have
reclaim that.
yeah, have this community, and we're like empowering each other,
Yeah.
you know,
That's
and like
awesome.
hearing their stories too is really cool. Like knowing that I'm not the only one going through this right now. Like we're all having our hardships, but like, hey, we can talk with each other about it, and like, I don't know, it just feels better when you're not going through it alone.
Yeah.
You know, and yeah, and I think a lot of it is NMCC has really helped me with that. And entrepreneurs that I'm homies with now, you know, we all met because of them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome. They really put the community in New Mexico community capital.
Yeah.
What would be some like words of advice that you would give to someone listening, who maybe has an idea, but they are kind of nervous to take that leap into entrepreneurship, or maybe they don't really know what they want to do, but they kind of want to start a business? What's a piece of advice that you would give them?
I would say, what's your passionate, like whatever it is you're passionate about, you know. I mean, if they're unsure of it, like what brings you happiness, you know, what do you love, what gives you that feeling inside of like, yes, this that, like I don't know, I can't even put it into words, but it just clicks.
Yeah.
That thing, that's the thing. For me, it was always art. And I think if you're debating on making that leap into it, I would say don't leap, don't just jump directly into it. I'll reference that book again. It's called Real Artists Don't Starve. Read that book. because it really gives you an awesome idea of how to transition out of a normal job into being an entrepreneur. That was huge for me.
And
That really helped.
I'll link that.
Yeah, because that's one of the things they say too, is don't just straight up quit your job and then start. Because a lot of people who do that, they don't make it.
Yeah.
Like you have to like ease your way out of it. It's almost like if you're trying to like,
Plan almost.
yeah, have that plan. It's almost like if you're trying to like, I don't know, just be
Baby steps.
baby steps. Yes. And look for those resources that are out there, and we referenced a lot of them: NMCC, AIB, American Indian Chamber of Commerce,
RDC.
There's a lot of people that want to help you out there.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just a matter of like asking for help,
Mm-hmm.
And don't be ashamed to ask for help. Like none of us are born knowing how to be entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
I'm still learning a lot, but it's humbling, but it's cool, and really just believe in yourself. You're capable of more things than you think you probably are. And all it takes is just that one little step, just that first step. Send that email, give that person a text, go to that whatever, that luncheon or workshop, whatever. Take your, even if you don't have business cards, like just tell people about your social media or whatever you have, you'll be amazed at how just that one little intention that you have, how far that can go. Because a lot of us, we understand what it was like in the beginning. It's hard. It's a hard thing to like, and like for me, I know the things that I needed and I know the help that I needed, and I didn't know where to look. But I just had to ask that right person, or saw that opportunity come up. Like I'll never forget that time I was scrolling through Instagram and NMCC's thing popped up. It was Jake Foreman. Like,
I feel like that's another thing from like the universe.
Yeah, yeah. And like I remember calling him, or I messaged him. At some point I had a conversation with him,
Mm-hmm.
and that was like how that's how I started getting empowered.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody believed in me,
Mm-hmm.
And maybe the next thing that I would say, maybe the last thing I'll say is like, there's gonna be people that are gonna tell you like, don't do it, like you're crazy, like, there's gonna be a lot of naysayers, and but like you have your dream and you know what you want, like surround yourself with the people that are empowering you. The people that are your haters, they don't need to be in your life. Understand that there's circles. Like I'm in the center, there's my circles. The people that are in your immediate circle, if they're telling you like you shouldn't do this, you're never going to make it, you can't do it, like get a normal job, they need to go into one of those outer circles.
Yeah.
The people that are out here, they're like cheering you on, they're like, oh, badass, you're doing this, cool, I'm so proud of you. Bring them closer, and like surround yourself with like-minded entrepreneurs. Like I have some awesome homies that I've met now who they're doing great things, and it's inspiring to watch them grow, and it inspires me to grow. And I know that there's people that may even be inspired by me that I don't even know. They may just be seeing what I'm doing and being like, man, that guy's doing great things, like I hope I can do that. Even though maybe I don't think that I'm like I don't know. I guess it comes back to not having that self-doubt. But like, just believe in yourself. You can do it. Anybody's capable of doing it.
Yeah.
Don't doubt yourself. You can totally do this. Just ask for help and like I'm sure you're gonna link my
Yes.
all my contact information. Like if you want to ask me questions, ask me. Like I'm all about helping other people. I think it's really important. Like especially us as native community, we gotta help everybody rise. That way, all of us can get what we need and deserve.
Well, I just have probably one or two more questions, but one that I've been thinking of probably since the beginning of this interview, but I wanted to wait to ask is, where did lightning and fire come from? Because you were a firefighter, so like, did that play a role in the name, or how did you come up with the name?
Yeah, so lightning, my Tewa name that I was given when I was a little one, it translates to lightning. And then fire, because I was a wildland firefighter for 11 years. When I came up with the name, that was more of just like, that's my Tewa name, that's always who I've been, but it's taken on so much more meaning now because lightning is a symbol of power. Fire is energy at its most purest. They coincide. Like, I don't want to take up too much more of your time, but like
fine.
the lightning really took a whole new meaning for me back in 2020 because I was doing a hike up on the Sandia Crest, and it was on my son's birthday. So I had him that first half of the day. He went with his mom the other half of the day, and that was kind of the first time that I wasn't with him the full day. So I was like kind of bummed out, and I was like, well, I'm gonna go for a hike just because I don't want to think about that. I just want to do something that's gonna keep me energized and focused. And it was kind of on a day like this where it's cloudy and I was hiking and I wanted to make it to the top. I have this trail I never did, and I knew it topped out at the crest. I was like, I'm gonna make it today. This is my goal today. And it was like I started hearing rumblings probably in Santa Fe. That gut feeling was like, hey, we should probably think about this. We're fine, it's far away. And then it was getting closer, but it was still nothing close to me. And then I started feeling sprinkles, and it was getting darker, and then I was almost to the top, and then there was this mama deer and her baby, and I could see the top of the crest. I was almost there. The mama moved off the trail. The baby deer stayed in the trail. And I walked up probably to, maybe almost as close as you.
Mm-hmm.
And it would not get off the trail. And like, I was like talking to it. I was like, all right, baby, like, it's time to move. I need to go. And it just gave me this look of like, if I could speak deer, it was just like, bro, what are you doing? It was shaking its head at me. I mean, it literally wasn't shaking its head, but like that's what it felt like.
Yeah, it was like, what are you
dude,
turn around.
Dude, don't, but I didn't listen to it. And it was like, all right. It moved out of the way, and I got to the top. As soon as I got to the top, boom, a loud, huge lightning strike hit.
Oh my gosh.
And I was like, oh no. I need to get down now. Yeah. And the thing is, like, I've been working for the Forest Service for a long time. I knew the signs of what a lightning storm is. I knew what you're not supposed to do, and I broke every one of those rules. And now it was like nature was teaching me a lesson. It's like, all right, you don't want to listen to me. Now it's time for you to learn. And like, it started raining, and like, I was hiking fast. I was like going down fast. I was like, all right, I'll be fine. Gotta get off the crest. This is the most dangerous place to be. I gotta get out of the big timber. And another one closer. Third one closer. It's like, okay, I think it's time to start running. Yeah. And it was starting to rain harder. And I started running. And then I just felt this huge surge of energy. Oh my God. Right above me. Like, it was like if somebody turned on this super bright fluorescent light, like blue, and I just saw, like, I felt these fingers of energy stretching across the clouds above me. And then the most loudest explosion I've ever heard in my life. And it felt like a cannon was going off, like right above my head. It like dropped me. Like, I like the energy that I felt, just like my human instincts just told me get to the ground.
Mm-hmm.
And so like I dropped, and it just this force, this sheer energy that I felt was terrifying.
Mm-hmm.
The most terrifying experience I've ever had in my life. I got up because I was still in the high timber. I ran as fast as I could. I was sprinting down that trail, and like the trail turned into a river. It was raining that hard. And I just remember thinking like, I might die right now. There's a pretty good chance that I might get struck by lightning right now, because strikes are going off all around me, close. And I was just praying that whole time, like, please, please don't take me on my kid's birthday. Like, that's all I could think.
Yeah.
Please don't take me on my kid's birthday. Not so much about worried about like, I knew I got myself into this situation, and if it was my time to go, I did it.
Yeah.
I made those decisions, but please don't. I don't want my child to have this on his birthday.
Yeah.
And I was praying that whole time, and then I finally got to the point where like the timber got smaller, and like there was a fork in the trail, and I was like, "This is it. I have to hunker down here." And so I pulled my space blanket out of my pack, just like a tarp, like a survival tarp. I hunkered down under these little aspens, and I just threw it over me, and I just huddled in a little ball, and these strikes were just going off everywhere, all around me, and I was just like breathing, and I was like, all the steam was coming off of me because I was hot, but it was cold, and it was just like I remember seeing my breath and just huge puffs of clouds of my breath, and just thinking like, I can't believe I did this. I can't believe I put myself in this situation. Like, I didn't listen to myself. I didn't listen to all the signs that were happening and telling me to turn around. And I was just like, man, I hope I don't die today. And eventually, like, the storm started getting quieter. Luckily, it was one of those quick ones that came and went. I was hunkered down for maybe 30, 45 minutes. And it finally passed. And I remember coming out of my tarp, and like a changed man. I was like, I am never ignoring my gut instincts ever again. That was like one of the biggest life lessons I ever had. Like, and I think that's when my healing journey started. That was kind of like that beginning of like, people say they have like a spiritual awakening. I think that was when it like, almost like you hit a light switch.
Yeah.
Like that's when it hit.
God was trying to get your attention.
It was like, you need to make changes. There's a lot of changes that you need to make in your life. And that's when this whole crazy journey that I've been on, right? Wow. Anyways, I just thought that was a fun fact.
Yeah, no, that's a great story. And I think it kind of speaks to just everything you've been saying during this conversation about like listening to those signs, you know, that are put in front of you, either saying like, this isn't the right path, like turn around, or this is an opportunity. Like it, again, it comes to that like choice, right? Like, are you gonna listen to these signs and to your gut and follow that, or are you just gonna keep going against the current of the river?
Totally.
So that's a great story. And it really makes me it gives good perspective to your journey as well, and just how impactful starting your business and being an entrepreneur has been these past couple of years, and hopefully will continue to be for you, for your son, for your community, going forward. So thank you for sharing.
Thank you for listening.
Of course. I think it's a great story, and it gives even more meaning to the name. I love all your pieces. I think they're very unique, and you can tell that there's a story behind the design and like a purpose to it. It's not just random, so before we get off, where can people find you if they want to connect with you, or if they want to buy a piece or see what you have available? where can they find you?
Yeah, so my website is lightningandfirejewelry.com, all one word, and then Instagram is lightning and fire jewelry. And if you want to meet in person, I am in Santa Fe at the plaza under the Portal, usually like 2 to 3 times a week. And I try to update my social media as best as I can to let people know when I'm going to be there. And then I'm at the rail yards almost every Sunday. It ends the last Sunday of October, but I'm planning on being there for the most part from here on out. I won't be here this coming weekend, but other than that, I will. But yeah, just reach out to me on any of those platforms. Yeah, I'm always down to meet cool and interesting people too, even if you don't want to buy anything, you just like want to talk about cool things, like,
Yeah.
I'm always down to like get some coffee or like, I don't know, just whatever, I think it's really, I just like hearing other people's stories,
Yeah.
It's cool.
Me too. That's one thing I love about this podcast.
Yeah,
is just getting to hear everyone's story, and pieces of their journey. I know there's a lot more that not everyone always has enough time to talk about, like everything they could, but
Yeah,
I love listening. So thank you again for sharing your story.
Thank you for doing this. I think it's awesome that, everybody's getting to tell their stories.
Yeah, of course. And if you have any people who you think would be good for us to have on here, just let me know.
Oh yeah, I got some people.
Awesome.
I'll let you know.
I look forward, and
Yeah.
everything that we mentioned will be linked in the description, the YouTube, and just thank you again.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for listening.